Now, I knew a man who was in the demolition of Bouleavan workhouse. A very practical man, a stone mason, a man you wouldn't think that had any nonsense about him at all, and hadn't. But he said, while he was on that site, he found it the most lonesome experience of his life. He said he got a feeling that here was a place where things happened that he wouldn't like to talk much about. That's the way he put it to me. He went on with his job, and most of that place is gone today. I was recently up to see it, and there's part of it standing. Yes, part of it standing. But like he said, those places, if they put as much money into the facilities and the kindness that should have been given to the people that went into them as they put into the building of them, there mightn't have been as much suffering at all. Now, there was this man in the very, very bad times. And you see, in those days, if you were alone at home and if you got sick and you were old and there was no one to mind you, well, what option had you? The workhouse. And this poor man, he was in a case like that. And the workhouse in Bouleavan. But he had a friend, and a friend of the family went back and back, the two families. And the friend, now there was no telephones in those days, the telegraph was there. And luckily, there was a kind nurse in the workhouse. And the poor old man said, look, please. And she named the friend who lived near Kinvara. Maybe 8 miles, 7 or 8 miles away. And send a message, please, that I'm here. And she did. Fair dues to the woman, she did. She sent the telegram, and of course there was a telegram that time in Bouleavan, and he got the telegram in Kinvara. Somebody brought out the telegram to him, and of course, oh my God, I better go. And it was in the month of November, dark, cold, miserable weather, and he set out on a saddle horse. Now, the one thing that was worrying him is, would he be in time? And in order to shorten his journey, he didn't go around by the coast road, around by Bell Harbour. He went down by a Corker Pass. And of course, that is Corker na Monarch, where the old monks of Corcomroe Abbey used to go up and down, do their travel, and of course also say their prayers, I suppose, when they'd be travelling that way. It was supposed to be a blessed place. But as he passed that way that night, in the cold, misery, wind, he said to himself, merciful God, will I be there, or will he be dead? And just then, out of the darkness, 3 little lights appeared, like the lights of small lamps. One of them just between the horse's ears, another one beside the left-hand flank of the horse, another one just in the road in front. And of course your man, he nearly fell out of the saddle immediately with the fright. But they flickered. And remember now, this was a windy, cold night. But as soon as he saw they meant him no harm, he spurred down the horse, and on they went. And now he had the light to go. So anyway, they made Bouleavan. And out he went to the workhouse. They were closed up for the night, but he knocked. The porter came out. What do you want? He explained himself. He explained why he was there and who his friend was. Oh my God, he says, oh my God, said the porter, poor man. You're just in time because he's on the way down. He was shown in, and the poor man was there stretched in the bed. He said, thank God you came, and don't forget, as he grasped his hand tight, don't forget that they only bury me in Glen with my people. That was Glenculum Kill graveyard. So he died shortly afterwards. All right, your man, he said to the matron, I'm claiming that man's body, because remember, if a corpse wasn't claimed in a workhouse within 2 days or thereabouts, he'd be buried in the pauper's graveyard that went with every workhouse. And now it was bad enough to have to go to the workhouse, but to be buried in a pauper's grave, that was the last resort entirely. Oh. But now at least the old man, he had somebody to bring him home to Glen Graveyard, and he was brought home to Glen Graveyard and buried with his own people. But, the neighbours turned up. And it was evening time, because remember now the days are short in November. But as the grave diggers were digging the grave, they noticed something very odd. Well, they had their lamps, of course, as they finished their job. But as they were going, quenched their lamps to be going for the following morning, they noticed 3 little lights around the grave. And they were wondering what in the name of God are them. They kept going. And they were telling the people afterwards, and of course people were laughing at them. In the name of God, you were drinking whiskey, which very often was the case. Grave diggers would get a little glass of whiskey, to help them along. Cold job very often. But no, they said, we saw them 3 little lights there at the grave mouth. And 'twas then that they started talking among themselves, and 'twas then that your man told the story of what he had seen going up the Corker Pass, Corker na Monarch, the 3 lights that led him to Bouleavan workhouse to claim the body of the friend of the family. I heard that story from an old man up in Tubber nearly 40 years ago, and he swore that it was the truth.
Well, thank you to Eddie, and he'll be back with another tale for Seanchaí Corner very soon.